Welcome to Estherpreneur, a podcast for entrepreneurs and leaders doing business and life God's way. Each week, we discuss biblical and practical tips to improve your mind, business, spirit, relationships, and finances. Listen along as I speak with special guests on how to thrive in all aspects of life. Hi, I'm Edna. Like many of you, I wear many hats. I'm a military wife, mother, author, certified John Maxwell business and executive coach, trainer, and founder of Favor and Wealth, where we help the good guys win. So tune in as we bring on the light. Hello, everybody. Thanks for tuning in today. Today's session is very dear to my heart because I am, as you all know, I started out in the marketplace first. I'm all business. My background has been in, business sales, corporate America, project management, international business, all of that stuff. I'm going to go over that a little bit here shortly. But I started there, and then the Lord called me to ministry, and then he told me to mix both. And that's what I've been doing for years. And so today's session is all about giving you guys strategies that I learned from working, in the marketplace, obviously, and what I saw worked, and also instilling wisdom from the Holy Spirit and how to make it applicable to even the church. So anyway, let's go ahead and start with a word of prayer. Father God, I just thank you for this time. I thank you, Lord, that for my brothers and sisters who are watching this, oh God, that you will be the one to give them insight, wisdom, inspiration, ideas, God. Lord, speak through me, Father. Help me, Lord, to be an encouragement to my family, oh God. And also, Lord, I just pray, oh God, that they will just get some inspiration, Lord, from this, and that they'll be able to apply what they learned today. In Jesus' name, amen. So let's go ahead and get started here. As I mentioned, I am a growth strategist. So what I do is I work with businesses and individuals looking to grow their business or personally. And so one of the things that I do a lot is I do speak to a lot of entrepreneurs or inspiring entrepreneurs. This session that I'm about to do is a session that I did back, gosh, I think it was in 2017, where I was invited to speak to a bunch of individuals who got let go during the downturn of the oil and gas industry. As y'all know, if you guys can recall, especially in Houston, there was a lot of people that got let go, got laid off. And so a lot of them were in transition. A lot of them didn't have jobs. And so I was invited to speak, and I got a lot of positive feedback. And I'm hoping that this will be a blessing to you guys who may be looking for something to do on the side to help, build additional income, for your family. Or maybe you want to go on it full time, it doesn't matter, whatever, that's your agenda, whatever you guys want to do with it. But I'm going to go ahead and get started here and get cooking. Here we go. So let me go ahead and share my screen here. So today we're going to talk about identifying your niche market. And so what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to hide my face here. All right, so that you guys can focus. All right, so I always like to start off with, who I am, why I do what I do. But let me start off with this quote, okay? Unfortunately, we live in a society where employers look at people as commodity versus looking at them as assets. And I've seen this time and time again across various industries where, you're just a number. And, nowadays, I think it's getting a little bit better because now they're saying that there's a lot more opportunities for employees nowadays. So they're changing a little bit, but at that time, let's talk about 2014, 2015, they didn't really care about employees. And so I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next part, which is my story and why I do it the way I do. So, on August 27, 2014, I remember walking to my office. It was actually early in the morning. I was a director of new business development for this engineering construction firm. And I was doing really well. I was in charge of, obviously developing new business for the company. And my job was to train the team and all that stuff. So the night before, I was on a conference call, and basically my boss at that time, who's the VP of sales, was basically praising me and saying, how good of a job that I did, that we had so much new business, and, that he was proud of me and all this other good stuff. So when I walked in on August 27, 2014, I was surprised to see my boss was actually in his office, because I'm an early bird and I usually get in the office around 6 a.m. And he was there at 6 a.m. So it was kind of figuring out what's going on. And he called me into his office and he handed me a pink slip of paper and basically told me that it was my last day. So I was really shocked, because I was like, wait, what happened? I was like, what? I'm so confused. Just the day yesterday, you were praising me in front of the entire sales force and all the management team of how good of a job that I was doing for the company. And he said, no, it's not you. You did everything you're supposed to do. It's just we can't afford you. And he basically said that they couldn't pay me, the money that was owed, because a couple of years before that, I was promoted to that director level and I kept my same salary because I was a national sales rep at that time. And when I got promoted, I didn't get a pay increase. He just made a deal with me that after 2 years, if I hit my goal, I was going to get a portion of the net margin, whatever it was that, from the bottom line. And so obviously I exceeded my goals, and they basically said that they were, they were a small company and they couldn't afford to pay me what they originally said they were going to be able to do, which, obviously I was devastated. And my website has, my story there. So it's like there's a video to show that. So I'm not going to go into detail, but bottom line was I was really frustrated at that time, because I'm like, oh my gosh, it wasn't at them. It was the fact that this was the 4th time this happened to me. Not that I got laid off 4 times, but 4 times, after 4 times of being screwed by corporate America, them not giving my commissions because I exceeded my goals. At that point, I was just like, come to Jesus and be like, okay, God, what's going on? What in the world is going on? And so I decided to, start a business at that time. So I started my business called Favor and Wealth, Winning and Going Business the Right Way. And I joined the John Maxwell team, and I got, certified to be an executive coach, trainer, and speaker, and all that good stuff. But I was still working full time for, corporate America, obviously. And so, I'm going to show my face because I want you guys to see me here, because I think this probably be better that way. I'm going to stop sharing for a second. Okay. So, because I feel like I want to talk to you guys. So, so I left, I was still working full time, like I said, corporate America. And then they did it again to me while I was working on my business part-time. They cut my commissions from 12% to 2%, 2.5%, because I was on top of my game again. I was in top sales, and they didn't want to pay me. And then at that time, I was also dealing with an operations manager, or not operations manager, but another person from a different department who was screwing over my customers as far as pricing and everything. So they weren't doing the right thing. And there's just so many things. I'm not going to go into details, but basically I saw the ugly side, greed of corporate America when it came to sales and money. And I made a decision. I was like, I am not putting up with this anymore. I am done. So on October 7, 2016, I walked into, it was a Friday, I can never forget it. I remember the Lord told me, all right, this is it. Are you going to jump off the boat? And I was like, all right, I'm going to jump off the boat. I'm going to walk on water. And so I remember I came in the office and I was like shaking. And I remember I handed in my notice and my hands were like literally like this, shaking. And my boss was like, are you okay? What's going on? And I told him, I was like, look, I can't do this anymore. And so I handed a piece of paper, and he was so shocked because, like I said, I was top of my game. I had millions of dollars, of revenue that was coming in. I was walking away from my commissions. I was walking away from a lot of opportunity. I was the only sales rep at that time because the other gentleman, left. I don't know if he left. Yeah, he did leave. And so I had all the accounts, and bottom line was, I was set, I was set. They respected me and everything. But I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it anymore. I was like, you guys changed my commission structure. And most importantly, my reputation's on the line, and you all, the way you're doing business right now isn't representing integrity. And I can't work for a company like that. I even put that in my letter, saying that, that I don't I can't agree. I don't agree with the way they're doing business, and that's why I have to leave. And they asked me if I could change my my letter of resignation. I said, no, I'm going to say exactly what it is. And I told them that I was going to make a difference in the marketplace. So on October 7, 2016, I left my corporate job. And that was a time, again, where that time I didn't know I was going to get scammed. I was scammed yet. So fast forward to May of 2017, that's when I found out I was scammed by this group of pastors, and you guys know about that story. And so just say that the moment I jumped off the boat and started walking on water, the storm started raging, and that's when things went for a turn, and the Lord had really just like helped me and strengthened me during that time of storms and torture. And it was really a faith walk, stepping out on my own and doing what God called me to do, which is which I'm going to talk about in a second here. But really, that was a game changer for me, because it was during that transition time where I saw the ugly side of business in the world, but also in the church. That's when I decided to do something about it. And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. So I'm going to go back to my presentation here and then go from there. So let me minimize this. Sorry, guys. All right. So as I mentioned, oh, I forgot. I forgot this part. Oh, so in 2014, let me go back. Let me back up. I'm sorry, guys. Okay, I forgot. Okay, so after that instant, after the time when I actually, got let go the first time, right? The only time, not the first time, the only time I got let go because they didn't want to pay me my commissions. I decided to fight back by writing my story about the ugly side of sales. And in this book, I talk about, 7 strategies. First, I tell about my story, what I saw, and then there were 7 chapters that talks about some of the strategies that the God gave me to get indoors, and how I closed hundreds of millions of dollars of business. Okay. And so I share some of that secrets. And so I remember, one day I was actually, my church was hosting Les Brown for a conference, and I was sitting down in this table, and it was in backstage, and I met a lady who was a publisher. And bottom line is, and I was telling her my story, and she was telling me, I can publish, send it to me, I could publish it. So bottom line, it was a local publisher. It didn't work out because I didn't see the quality of it, of the actual she was like, just like I honestly, let's call a spade a spade. She wasn't a legit publisher. And so I kind of gave up on it. I was like, God, maybe this was not it. So I decided to just kind of move on. And then a few months later, my friend, Julie, was going to Lakewood Church, and there was a publisher there. And the publisher basically told their group that, hey, if you know any up and coming writers, tell them about us and tell them to send, their manuscripts, because they were looking for people, new blood. And so sorry. I decided, oh my gosh, I need more coffee. She told me about it. I decided to submit it. I made it to the final stages. I was in the last 3. Unfortunately, they didn't choose me. But what they did was they sent my manuscript to another publisher. And this publisher, which is the largest Christian publisher in the world, actually wanted to publish me. And so I wrote this book. And what ended up happening was I started getting invited to speak at different conferences, business conferences. This is not church stuff, but business stuff, about my book, The Ugly Side of Sales. And then during those public speaking engagements, I would get clients, and they would tell me, hey, can I hire you? I'm like, oh my gosh. And I realized, oh my gosh, you can make money doing this? Like, for like, what? Why am I working? So anyway, that's why I left my corporate job. So I started my Go consulting firm. I joined the John Maxwell team. That's what started my whole business. And then I left my corporate job in October 7th, 2016, because, like, as I mentioned, I decided to fight the ugly and bring in the good. Now, I said, as I mentioned, I was exposed to the ugly side of business in the marketplace, even within the church, and that's when I decided to follow God's call over my life. I realized that the same spirit that was operating in the world is also in the church. Let me say that again. The same spirit that is operating in the world is in the church when it comes to greed. There is a lot of those deceiving spirits in the church that are using God's name or his the Christianity verbiage so that they could scam people and screw people's livelihoods. And so anyway, that's what I was tasked for, is to be able to equip the body of Christ, the true body of Christ, the ones who are walking in spirit and in truth, right? About what to look out for when you're dealing in business. And God has given me a lot of wisdom, a lot of favor in dealing with that. And so, as you all know, this is a time where there is a transfer of wealth because what's happening around us. If you look at throughout the scriptures, there is a lot of people who got a lot of increase, or the wealth just basically became rich over a short period of time because there was an opportunity that arises in the middle of famine, in the middle of chaos, in the middle of challenges. God raises up his sons and daughters to step into positions so that they can use the wisdom that he gives them, and also to be able to be blessed by him through evil men. Remember, the Bible says that he's going to transfer, that men is going to give from their bosom. So it's not, people are looking, sometimes this is the funny part. People think that their wealth is just going to come from God. God is just going to drop, $1 million in their bank account. That's not how it works. Unfortunately, what God does is he'll give you some sort of solution to a problem, and then men of the world are going to see that you have something that they need, and then they're going to pay you for that solution. So that's pretty much how it works. So don't let I'm going to stop sharing real quick. Don't let the church fool you thinking that's just going to drop. Oh my gosh, it'll like money cometh. I'm sorry, guys. I'm not trying to make fun of people, but that's not how it works. Okay. I used to believe that at one point, then the Lord corrected me and was like, no, daughter, that's not how it's going to come. It's going to come through your skills, right? It's going to come through your gifts and talents. The Bible says that your gift will make room for you. And that's how the wealth is going to be transferred to you. Now, let me go back to my session. Okay. And so I just laugh at myself sometimes because I can't believe I used to believe that. All right. So what is my mission? Okay. My mission is to change the marketplace. Ultimately, that is my mission, is to change the marketplace. Okay. Because that is what God called me to do. I know it sounds crazy. And I remember I used to tell people all this time, like my clients, millionaires, billionaires, I deal with them all the time. And my colleagues and so forth. And I remember they would tell me, like, Edna, you have a good heart. I see your intention. I know what you're trying to do, but you can't do that. People are not, never going to change. Business is business, is how it's always going to be. And I remember they told me, like, it's never going to happen. And I remember I was telling them, no, I said, I know it can happen. I believe that God can change the heart of men. And so I wanted to read this quote. It says, the ones who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones that do. And guess what, guys? I'm crazy. Are you guys crazy? I hope you guys are the good kind of crazy, okay? Because if God has called you to do something, a specific task, whatever it may be, I challenge you guys to go after it full force, because that is where you're going to see your provision. I say that again. That is where you're going to see your provision, okay? All right, let's go to the next part. Oh, sorry. Now, I want you guys to think about this, okay? Before you guys even, you know, a lot of people, they just like, people think that, let me back up, okay? People think that I have a good idea, let me go ahead and go for it. That's not how business works. That's not, you're gonna get kicked in the curb, okay? Or you're gonna hit a wall if you think that way, okay? Starting a business is a very comprehensive thing, okay? You can't just, you don't expect to get rich just because you have a good idea, okay? There are so many factors that takes into play when you're deciding about launching a business. So I want you guys to think about these questions. Should I start a business? When should I start a business? What should my business be? Why should I start a business? How long does it take for me to see the fruits of my labor? Where do I begin? These are all questions that you need to ask. Remember, guys, God is a God of order, and he wants to set you up for success, but understand that it's a process. God always works in processes, okay? Even though something that you think happened overnight didn't really happen overnight, because I can guarantee you that he has been preparing you for years for such a time as this, okay? Whatever this time is, where you see the harvest or the blessing or the breakthrough, whatever it is, it didn't just happen overnight. I don't really believe that the suddenlies is really a suddenly. Remember, 1,000 years is like a day to the Lord. So my point is, like, understand that this is going to be a journey, and it's going to take discipline. It's going to take commitment, and that's what you have to do. Let's look at some statistics, okay? Statistics, you know, small SBA, Small Business Administration defines a small business as an enterprise fewer than 500 employees. A lot of people think that a small business are those who are 1, 2, 3 people. No, a small business is an enterprise fewer than 500 employees. So over 50% of the working populations, which is 120 million individuals, work in a small businesses. So most majority of the time, most of the people that you see are working for small businesses, actually, not the big giant corporations. Small businesses have generated over 65% of the new jobs since 1995. There are almost 28 million small businesses in the US, and over 22 million are self-employed with no additional payroll or employees. They're non-employers. So these guys are kind of like me, where I don't have employees. I have contractors that outsource some stuff, but majority of them are that way. These could be your lawyers, they could be your doctors, these could be your accountants, and so forth, okay? Let's look at some more statistics. Approximately 543,000 new businesses get started each month, but more employer businesses shut down than start up each month. Read that, okay? There's another one. 7 out of 10 new employer firms survive at least 2 years, half at least 5 years, a third at least 10 years, and a quarter stay in business for 15 years or more. So as you could see, the level of as far as the ratio of success in business is very low. So it really takes a lot to get to where you, like what you see, like these Fortune 500 companies. It took a lot of time for them to get there. Obviously, there are some principles you have to do in order for you to get to that point, and there's some strategies that needs to take place, and that's why it's so important that we get knowledge and we get wisdom, because people perish because of lack of knowledge. So here's the deal. Let me back up for a second. If you guys truly want to be successful in business, you need to get good counsel. You need to have surround yourself with mentors, coaches. You need to do your part, do your due diligence, study the industry, study the market. I can't tell you how much learning I do on a daily basis. I myself have coaches. You cannot be a coach and not have a coach, okay? So if you're hiring someone, ask them, who's your coach? Okay, if you're a coach, who's your coach? And if they don't have a coach, guys, run away, because you have to be a product of what you're selling, right? Obviously. So I believe in coaching. I believe in strategic thinking. I believe in consult. I believe in all of that because I saw that it worked for me. All right, so let me go back to my screen. Okay, here we go. Let's continue. And approximately 75% of all US businesses are non-employer business, 75%. So these are your solopreneurs. These are people, again, who don't employ people, but they work for themselves. All right, so here's my quote, guys. As you can see there, my hair was, oh my gosh, I was so young back then. Here we go. Listen to happy people for inspiration. Listen to unhappy people for ideas. Okay. Listen to happy people for inspiration. Listen to unhappy people for ideas. All right. Here's another quote. And this is important, guys. And you guys heard this before, but I added a couple words. Okay. No one cares about what you do. They care about what you do for them and others. You know, the marketplace is shifting. As I said, I did this presentation back in 2015. And in 2015, at that time, no one was really talking about these, you know, good initiatives that they're doing for the community. It's just nowadays, people are more talking about philosophical stuff and things that they're doing for the community, because there is a shift in decision makers. When I say that, is the people that are coming up into these millennials, right? The people that are coming up to buy now have a different perspective, because their parents, like my parents, they worked a lot, and yeah, they provided, but we never saw them. We never saw, you know, them in our, you know, they're always busy with work and they're trying to make a living, which is absolutely fine. But you know, my generation, I'm like in the oldest of the millennials, I guess, is we want to have a work-life balance. We want to be there at our kids' football games, at our kids' you know, drama, you know, be able to have lunch with our husbands, be able to, you know, do things with the family, because I missed out on that with my parents, because they were, you know, doing their, and not to say they were bad at all. I understand that people have, you know, things to pay for. We have bills, and obviously they're going to do what they need to take care of the family. But the people that are making decisions now, their mentality is different. They're not trying to be millionaires and billionaires. What they're trying to do is be able to provide for their family, be able to spend time with their family, and even bless their family with a few good. They don't need to have the world. They don't need to have the fancy houses. They are looking for just, you know, a simple, you know, nice life, as long as they get to travel and spend time with their family. So there was a shift. Like I said, there was a shift in decision makers, right? You went from that generation who was all about, you know, status and, you know, how you look in front of people, to you have a generation who, what are you doing for others? And so from there, and again, I said this in 2015, there was a new sector in the business world that arose, and that is what you call a social enterprise. Now, some of you guys know what a social enterprise is, some of you guys don't. But if you guys do know what a social enterprise is, if you don't know what a social enterprise is, here's what it is. A social enterprise is an organization that applies commercial strategies to maximize improvements in human and environmental well-being. So what differentiates social enterprises is that their social mission is as core to their success as any potential profit. So what that means is, yeah, they're a for-profit business, yes, but they also support a good cause. So I'm going to give you guys some examples instead of trying to explain it. So for example, if you guys heard of Tom's is, if you, with your purchases, and your partners, what they do is they give shoes, sight, water, safe birth, and bullying prevention services in over 70 countries around the world. So you buy their products, they will give shoes, they will provide resources to third world countries. Another one is Bottle for Bottle. This is actually family owned and locally operated right there in Australia. And when you purchase a bottle of shampoo for yourself, what it does is they will give a bottle of milk to a child in need. So as you could see, you buy their services, and they give back to the community, give back to the world, because they see that there is a shift in the decision-making process, in decision makers, that people's perspective is no longer about me. Now it's like, what are you doing for others? And so if you guys do not adapt to that, if you guys do not adapt to the fact that the people who are making decisions right now are people who have a heart for those who are rejected, who are oppressed, the orphans, the widows, the elderly, whatever it is, you guys are going to miss a huge market, a piece of the market, because they're looking for that. They're looking to see what your reputation is in the community. So for me, for example, before, I've always had a heart for ministering to people or helping those who don't have money per se. So I help those who are in business. So for example, let me give you an example. So I work with a lot of, at one point I worked with a lot of inmates, those people who are looking to start a business. And I was part of an executive business advisor for a prison entrepreneurship program where I work with prisoners who have this brilliant idea and I help them create business plans for them. I also work with a lot of young people, young students, like high school students. And these high school girls are those interested in entrepreneurship. I don't charge them like the big, huge rate like I normally do. I give them a really, really discount. I pretty much do it for free to teach them about entrepreneurship. So my point is, when you guys are thinking of business ideas, you also have to have that in the back of your mind is, how can my business support a good cause? Because that's the mentality of the world now, of the decision makers now, is I don't care you have a nice product and service. What are you doing good for other people? All right. So let's go to my next point. How can create a business with a niche market authority? Okay, so this is the part where I want to go ahead and get to the meat and potatoes, right? So we have to learn not to create a business just because other people are doing it and they're succeeding in it. A lot of times what I'll find is I'll talk to entrepreneurs and they'll tell me, I see this person, they're making a lot of money doing this, so I want to do it too. That is not, I don't believe that is a smart way to go about in starting a business, okay? When you start a business, okay, you need to stop competing and start creating. What I mean by that is you have your own natural gifts and abilities, right? So, for example, let me just give you an example. At one point, I was certified as a personal trainer because I wanted to make money, on the side, and because I wanted to help myself. Now, I see a lot of personal trainers who are making a lot of money, but it wasn't my passion. I didn't really care about helping other people, get fit and get sexy or whatever. Like, it was just more for me than anything else. So for me to launch a business about, getting physically fit, but I'm not really passionate about it. I'm passionate for myself, but I'm glad that they're doing it, but that's not a good avenue of that's not a good way to start a business. You don't want to do that. And so my point is, learn, when you guys are thinking of business ideas, come up with something that you actually enjoy doing, not just because you see other people, making a lot of money doing that particular business. I hope that makes sense. Let's continue. Okay. Now I'm going to fly through these next slides because there's a lot of information, but feel free to pause the video because you guys have it when you do that. Okay, let me go ahead. So let's talk about what my secret sauce is when it comes to clarity and innovation. Okay. In order for you to identify what your niche business is, let's start with yourselves, right? What are the strengths of your key people? So let's say it's just you. So what are your strengths? Identify what those strengths are. My book talks about, The Ugly Side of Sales, talks about some questions that you could ask yourself, but you identify the strengths of your key people. The second you need to do is, what can you create based on your strengths? So whatever that may be. Let's say you're good when it comes to accounting, or let's say you're good when it comes to organizing closets. Let's say you're good at cooking. Whatever it is, what can you create based on your strengths? Let's go to the third point. You need to develop two types of brands. You have your personal brand and your business brand. I've said this many, many times. People focus so much about their logo. They focus so much about, making their fancy websites and their fancy marketing materials, but they don't take the time to promote themselves or work on themselves and get to know themselves. People need to know who you are first. People didn't buy from me because they like my product or service, because obviously, like for example, logistics. When I sold logistics, guys, when I sold logistics, guys, I did not, I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to talk to you guys here for a second. I didn't have the best product out there. In fact, we were really pricey. Yeah, everyone's gonna say, well, my customer service is great. I hear this a lot. My customer service is great. Well, guess what, guys? If that is your only differentiator, that your customer service is great, then you guys are screwed. Let me tell you this. That's kind of like the bare minimum. Okay. Yes, I understand you have good customer service. Okay. I understand you have good rates. Okay. That's expected. People expect to have good customer service. People expect to have good rates. So that's not really your differentiator. Okay. That's not really your differentiator. So, let me go back here. So you need to find out first, like, okay, find your target audience, develop a personal brand that's going to be appealing to the target audience, and then focus on your business brand. So this is an important key. I mean, I could probably spend 3 hours on this part, but I'm not going to. But my point is, you need to develop yourself and make sure you're putting yourself out there that people know you. Okay. So this is the problem. I remember you heard this before. People say, it's who you know, it's who you know, it's who you know, you're successful based on who you know. No, it has nothing to do with who you know. I could know tons of people, but it's who knows you. Who knows Edna? Who knows you, Sean? Who knows you? Who knows you? That's what's going to set you apart. Okay. You could rub elbows with so many people, but if they don't know who you are, they don't know what you stand for, they don't know what your business is, it's not going to do you any good. Okay, let's go to the next key when it comes to clarity and innovation. You have to innovate your business constantly. So let's say you guys have been in business for years, let's say 15 years. You can't be doing the same stuff you did for 15 years. You have to constantly reinvent yourself, constantly, innovate, come up with new packaging or come up with ways to save costs to your clients. A lot of times what you'll find is that most of the people, what they'll do is their prices will continue to increase, right? So as they go from year to year, they'll increase their prices because, they're doing a lot well. Well, I do the opposite. I went from really high to going a little bit lower because I was able to save some money on the front end, so I'll be able to pass it on to my clients. So my point is, you got to have that balance. You got to have that mix, right? Reinventing the wheel. So not reinventing the wheel. That's the wrong word. Okay, let me. The Lord is telling me to slow down for a second so you guys can comprehend. I know I'm saying a lot. Okay. There's nothing new under the sun. Okay, I'm gonna repeat that. That's in the scriptures, right? The Bible says there's nothing new under the sun. Everything that's in the world right now are just basically the same concept, but it's packaged differently, right? Or it's presented differently, or they use technology to make it better. So you have the phone, right? For example, the phone. The phone has existed for years, but now you have better technology, better speed, whatever it is. So that's when it comes to your business. As the years go by, you have to constantly improve your services, improve your product so that you can meet the demands of the market. And just understand that if you differentiate yourself based on just your product or service, you're going to fail, which is why you need to focus on yourself as well, because you need to also continue to strengthen your skills. Always be cutting edge when it comes to whatever your skill set is. So for example, let me make it plain. So let's say you're a hairdresser, right? And you want to do that for a business. Okay. Sharpen that skill of being a hairdresser. Always go to ongoing classes or courses that's gonna help you get better at your field. Try something new. Why don't you invent something new? Maybe ask God for strategic ideas on how to cut hair, maybe to shorten, I don't know, whatever it is. I'm not a hairdresser, so I have no idea, but I pray that as I'm speaking, the Lord's going to give you guys some ideas on how to differentiate yourself from your competition. Okay, so let me go ahead and continue to the next one. Okay, next one. The key is to create added value in everything you do. So like my whole process, from the moment people meet with me for the first time, when they go on my website, when they call my assistant or call my receptionist, every step of the way, I put some thought and value and in each and every step of that process. You know, it's making it a valuable experience and a pleasing experience for your clients is huge. A lot of times people only look at the product and service, but they don't look at the operations piece. They don't look at the payment piece. They don't look at, you know, even just the follow-up piece, the maintenance piece, and so forth. You know, they only focus on the sale. And that's where I see a lot of businesses fail, is they only focus on a specific step of the process, not realizing that the whole entire company in whatever department or whatever facet they do plays a huge role in the success of that client vendor relationship, right? Because if you do not have particular procedures and proper protocol in each of those steps, someone can leave your company. When I say someone, like a client may choose to go with another vendor because of that particular thing. So let me give you guys examples. I remember I lost a multi-million-dollar account because my operations people were rude to them. It had nothing to do with me. I did my part, but my operations people were really rude to them, and he and my client got, you know, into like some words exchange, and that, even if I apologize, I mean, that just rubbed them the wrong way. So when it comes to your business, think about that too. When you're hiring your people, make sure that you have people that is going to be able to represent you and your brand the way you want to be represented. You know, think about all those things. All that stuff plays a factor in the success of your business. And then also you have to understand what your target audience believes is added value. Because just because you think that they're going to think something is valuable doesn't mean that it's going to be really valuable to them. You got to talk to them. And again, I could talk about these for hours. So I have different strategies on how to do that, but you need to make sure that whatever you think is valuable, that you get confirmation that that particular thing is valuable. All right, going to the next one. So first step, strategic position. So let's say now you have an idea, you have some clarity based on the skill set of yourself or your people. You know, you're develop your personal brand, you're going out there, you're talking in the lingo, you're specializing in your particular skill set, you're learning, you're growing, all that other stuff. Now you have to start thinking about strategic positioning, okay? So which specific market segment should your business focus on? That's step one. Okay, so step one, it involves combining the skills of your personnel, your team, and the business, and the unmet needs of your targeted prospects. So you find out what market segment you want to focus on. So a lot of times people say, well, I want to target teenagers between 14 to 18 years old. Okay, that's not specific enough. Okay, that's not specific enough. I'm going to elaborate on this. Okay, you have to have more. So the next thing you got to do is you have to find what your dominating advantage is. What does that mean? So it means that you have one thing that separates you from your competition, that one thing that makes you different, that one thing. What is the most advantageous benefit of using you versus other hairdressers or versus other coaches and so forth? For example, let's give you Domino's. Domino's, theirs is they give you a free pizza if they do not deliver within 30 minutes. That's their biggest advantage, right? They'll give you a free pizza if you don't deliver within 30 minutes. Okay, that's what they did so that people would want to go to them. Then you got to come up with your business model. Now that's step three. A business model basically is how you're going to run your operations that you could support that particular promise. So for example, with Domino's, right, theirs is they have to deliver the pizza within 30 minutes. You got to make sure that you're able to deliver what you're promising, right? So if you're promising someone, for example, that you're a realtor, for example, and you're going to be able to sell their house within a week. Okay, if that's your promise to them, you better make sure that you guys have procedures and systems in place so that that can happen. So whatever it is that you're promising to the client based on whatever special project or project, service, or product you have, make sure that you're able to support that throughout the whole sales cycle. and make sure that you have systems in place that will be able to, basically dot your I's and cross the T's, that you have to mitigate risk, make sure that every aspect of that particular business is covered, and let me just give you an example, from IT to operations to account management, to if something goes wrong, all these things. Like, you have to talk about all those things and make sure that every step every step of the process will help you bring that promise into fruition. Whatever you promised and whatever advantage you said you have working with you, make sure you're able to do that. Now, you got to ask these questions. What changes do you need to make to your business that will ensure you deliver consistently on your position and your promise? So look, if you're a current entrepreneur right now, what you need to do is you need to look at every step of the way, from the moment they go to your website all the way down to they're already your customers and they've been customers for years. Like, look at every step of the way and make sure that you guys are covered, and that every promise or every value offering that you're saying is that you're actually able to get it done, because that's so important if you want to continue to keep your customers. Step number 4, and then after this is one more step and then that's done. You need to have a secondary market dominating position. So the first one for Domino's was if you don't get your pizza in 30 minutes, you'll get it for free. So this one is an additional benefit. So theirs is Domino's, not only if you don't get your pizza in 30 minutes, it's free, but they also have special pricing. They have assorted sizes. There's more choices for toppings and etc. So they have a lot more toppings than let's say Pizza Hut, for example. Okay. All right. So after you find your 2 dominating advantages, then you create your pitch. It's very simple, guys. It's not that hard. Okay, you create a pitch combining steps 1 to 4. So for example, the 10-second pitch for Domino's is Domino's will give you a free pizza if they don't deliver within 30 minutes. Then if you look at their pitch for a 30-second pitch, is Domino's provides busy customers fresh hot pizza and other food items within 30 minutes or less. Our assorted pizza offerings combined with our value pricing makes it affordable for everyone. Okay, so it's free pizza if it's not delivered within 30 minutes, but we also have, wings, we have pasta, we have this, and then we also have a lot of choices for you. And who do they target? They typically target college students. But my point is once you identify your 2 advantages about your business, then you could create your pitch or whatever it is your spiel is, and that is how you get that idea started. Is you take that pitch and then you create a business around that. All right, let's go to the next one. So how can you differentiate your business? Okay, how can you differentiate your business? There's so many things that you can do. I'm going to go through these really quickly, and then we can wrap it up here shortly. Okay, here we go. Convenience, right? Think location, think availability based on their schedule, not yours. Think ordering process should be easy. Is it like a 10-step process or is it a 1, 2, 3 process? Okay, it's about convenience. All right, then another one could be delivery. Can you bring your service to them instead of them coming to you? So for example, now you have, masseuse, instead of you going to the spa, they can come to you, or even nails, or even, I saw, dog groomers, instead of bringing it to the dog grooming shop, they come to your house. That's what they did for my dogs. So think like that. Think delivery. Another option is payment terms. Can you offer payment plans for them? 3 easy payment plans, or accept credit cards, that kind of stuff. Another option is what other services can you offer to them that's important to them? Could it be, I don't know, if if they buy this, they get this for free, or, whatever it is. Just come up with, think convenience. What will make it extra convenient for your client that they will want to work with you? The next one is speed. Is receiving your product or service faster important to your clients? Like, for example, if you call, like pizza, a lot of food services do a lot of this, or even websites. Hey, I can make edits to your website in 2 hours, things like that. Those are things that are important to clients. The next thing that's important to clients is education and training. Do you provide ongoing training and development for your products and services to your clients? Complimentary. Those are value added services that you could give to your clients. And then eliminate purchase risk. Do you have a money back guarantee or a return policy or no contracts? You see a lot of businesses doing that nowadays, but these will help entice your client to want to work with you, because most people want to avoid risk. Okay. They don't want people to, they don't want to feel like they're stuck. They want options. That's just how human nature is. Another thing is quality. The quality of your food is, Domino's is cheap quality, but when I say it's cheap, but it's good. Then you have Papa John's, who's a luxury type of pizza. They can price their pizza higher because the quality is better. So for example, let's say you're a coach and your quality of your product isn't that good. You don't want to charge them $500 an hour. Now, if you know that the service you're providing is really high quality, then yes, you could charge them $500 an hour. But all of these things, again, requires research. It requires, testing. It requires you doing your due diligence to make sure that all these things that we're covering make sense for your particular industry, make sense for your particular client, make sense for your particular company, your business, your people, and of course, make sense to you, right? Does it make sense to you? All right. And then number 21, security and safety. Is it safer? How can you make it safer, let's say for children or elderly people? You need to be able to protect your clients, and they care about security and safety. So if you say, for example, let's say you're opening up a daycare, is there a 24/7 video where a parent can see their child 24/7 with a click of a button? Like, what is it can they do? Like, for example, for me, for my an example, I'm going to show my face because I haven't shown my face in a while here. But let me just stop sharing real quick. So for me, for my mentoring program for young women, what I do, this is before this whole pandemic and everything even happened, and now everyone's doing virtual stuff. But it's to help ease the minds of the parents of these girls. I had it a virtual mentoring program instead of them going to school or them going to my office and so forth. It's all virtual so that they could their girls are safe at home. They don't have to worry about people kidnapping them and so forth. And then they also have access to the video, everything that I go over, so that they could see, the topics that I'm discussing. They could see that, they're in a safe environment, because nowadays you just never know, like, who's mentoring your kids. You have these sick pervs out there who takes advantage of young people. And so anyway, my point is that was a way for me to add value to my Estherpreneur program, which is for young women, is that it is virtual, and that everything is done from home, and they still have the engagement with me. They still interact with me on a regular basis. They still get the quality of it, but now they can do it with their convenience at home and I did that to protect them and protect me as well, because you never know, someone might say, hey, Edna, hit me, or who knows, like, you never know nowadays, right? You have to protect yourself from those type of people who want to take advantage of those who are maybe doing well, and they're going to come up with ways to sue you, things like that. So you got to set measures and things in your systems to make sure that you also protect yourselves and your clients. All right, and let's go on. There's a few more, guys. Selection, offer them different choices and options. Create bundle offers, sizes, colors, shapes. Those are things that you could do to help differentiate your business. I have programs for both the young and the old. I have programs for different price points. And so create those to help reach a bigger net, to reach a bigger, like a lot more fishes than just one. Some people, they like working with only like a few people. So yeah, theirs is very niche, specific, and their clients are very specified, and that's completely fine. It depends on your goals. Again, it depends on your personality. It depends on who you are, but make sure you have a selection, okay, for people to choose. And then pricing. Prospects buy value, not price. 14% of prospects buy of price. So what type of value are you bringing to them? It doesn't matter what kind of product or service it is. If they don't think it's valuable, they're not going to pay that price, right? So make sure that they excuse me. Excuse me. Oh man. Okay. Make sure that whatever product or service you're offering, that you price it fairly, and that you even make it too good to pass up, right? I really believe in that. Like, if you look at Jesus, how he did it, he gave us something that we don't deserve, right? And his stuff was free. I don't believe in you giving your stuff for free, because obviously you have a family to support. But if you give more than you receive, I believe that God honors that. And I believe that God will continue to just open up more for you and give you more opportunities. And it might be hard in the beginning, but I believe in the end you will reap your reward, because your source is him. And God will continue to bless you and your family if you continue to, be a light and example in the marketplace of who he is. Our role is to represent him, his character, how awesome he is. People need to see that we're different from the world. And I think that's really huge when you're thinking about your business. And then of course, single or fixed pricing, these other stuff. All right. And then also remember that they judge quality based on the price that you charge. So don't underprice yourself too much. I did it before because I wanted to kind of test it out. And at that time, my price was low because I also wanted to get some testimonials and I wanted to see how it worked. And once I validated that my products and services were good and it was making a difference in our lives, and yeah, of course, I raised my prices to make sure that I can, make my ends meet. And so forth. All right. Okay. And I think that's it. Oh, and one more thing. Let's talk about also Southwest, other value added service, how there's no baggage fees. Like think of, no late fees. All these little things make a difference to clients. Just think of it this way. Like think of a gift that keeps on giving. Like you get this, but you also get this, like those are kind of the way that's going to entice your future business, clients, is if you give them so much that they're like, oh my gosh, I gotta stay here because they keep giving me stuff for free, and value, not just garbage stuff, but good stuff. Those are things that you want to be able to do so that people were going to want to use you. So for example, for me, and I'm just giving you guys ideas. Like for me, whenever I get a new client, what I do is I gift them with a journal system. It's an online journal system that I use. And it's what a lot of my mentors and coaches uses. And it's not a cheap system. Okay. But when I get a new client, I gift them with this, and, they appreciate it because that wasn't part of their deal, but it's something that I do for clients to let them know that I appreciate you and I want you to be successful. And this really helped me become successful. And this is going to help you become successful. So things like that. Okay. And then we're going to close it up here now, soon. All right. So the one thing that you have that no one else has is you, your voice, your mind, your story, and your vision. I shared with you guys my story. I shared with you guys my mind. I shared with you guys my vision and my mission. I did forget to tell you guys this. So when I signed up for the John Maxwell team, I was actually, and I'm going to end with this. I was actually at Starbucks working on my, I was working on my business model and everything like that. And I remember there was a gentleman from the Philippines, two of them, that came to me in the Starbucks cafe. And I was sitting there, and I remember they asked me, it's like, hey, they were talking for a little bit, chit-chatting, and I found out they were believers and stuff. And they're like, hey, can we pray for you? And I was like, okay, these are random people. I don't know who these people were. And so these two men, they said, I want to pray for you. And so I remember we went to the side, and then they prayed for me. And then as this gentleman was praying for me, he said, as I was praying for you, I saw the words marketplace apostle. Marketplace apostle. And I had no idea what that meant. I wasn't even in ministry at that time. I was focused on my business, in my career. I was good. I was making six figures. I didn't care about, ministry, none of that. And so I remember that word just stood in me, and I didn't understand what that was. And the more I seek the Lord, and the more I spend time with him, and over the years, that happened in 2014, over the past years, like, he just keep make it relevant. Like, my job is to go and basically set up government in the marketplace. When I say that, is show to the marketplace how the kingdom of God operates, okay, in business and in education and in government, all these different things. I know it sounds huge. This is the call that God gave my life. So my point is, like, whatever it is that God has called you to do, a lot of times it's a lot bigger than you. Okay. So for example, if you think you're just being called to go and do hair, you think that's it. A lot of times there's a bigger purpose behind the hair. Okay. That could be an opportunity for you to meet people that you never met, would have never met in a lifetime. And you could be ministering to those, clients while doing their hair. So what I'm saying is, when God gives you an idea, when God gives you some sort of instruction, or whatever it is that God has called you to do, believe it, receive it, but also take action. I took action. I was like, okay, I don't even know what an apostle is. What is an apostle? And I hated the fact that when I read about apostles, that all of them went through trials and tribulation, and they went to jail. I'm talking about Apostle Paul, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I don't want to be called an apostle, because apostles' journeys are so tough. Like, I hate that journey. Like, I wouldn't want to be in that, not I hate that journey. I didn't want to go through that, but by the grace of God, I was able to go through a lot of challenges. But my point is, you have a call in your life, and if God has called you to business, I highly suggest that you seek the Lord and you surround yourself with people who will be able to help you in that particular arena. So at that point, I hired coaches, I hired, consultants, things like that, mentors. So, and that's what I highly suggest you do. Now, obviously, I'm also a business coach, and I do all that. And I remember at one point, I couldn't afford a business coach. So my suggestion is go get some books. Like, there's a lot of good audio books. There's a lot of good podcasts out there, YouTube videos you could learn on your own and things like that. I did that, obviously, because I didn't have money at one point, and then I also hired coaches. I've seen both, but my point is, it takes effort. It takes effort, and you got to be disciplined, and you got to stay committed and understand that it is hard work. Okay. It is hard work, and you will not get there overnight, but you will progress. You will get better in in deciphering which is for you and which is not for you. It's a process, it's a journey. And I just want to say, go for it, go for it. Obviously use wisdom. It's really important that you have supportive, a good support group to help you through entrepreneurship, because it's very difficult. It's very hard. It's a hard journey. You're probably going to try and fail a lot, and like I said, it's just part of the journey. So there's nothing wrong with you. It's just part of the journey. And so just embrace all of that. I feel like I have been on for a while, and I have. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it short right there. I pray that this encouraged you guys. I pray that you got some insights, wisdom in regards to that. Obviously, I'm here if you guys have any questions, but definitely appreciate your guys' time and watching this, and just understand that that this is, I really believe that the environment is ripe right now for new ideas, especially now that people are kind of like, with the whole pandemic, everyone's like thinking of ways like, oh my gosh, like this, they never even thought that this kind of stuff would even happen. So this is a time to get creative and innovative with your business ideas. And obviously, if you do want to, some support in that aspect, I'm here to help you guys. My business, favorandwealth.com, go check it out. Those are all different programs and services that I offer. But regardless, I really believe that you just have to start somewhere. So whether if it's getting in a book, or, writing a business plan, or buying a laptop, or finding out a name for your business, whatever it is, start somewhere. And that's what I did. Like, I let the Lord guide me and help me in every decision I made, and just understand there's going to be all these, distractions and things that are coming your way that you're going to have to make decisions for, but all of that is part of the process. I highly suggest you hire a coach, even if it's not me. I don't care if you guys hire me or not, but you need to hire a coach, because that really helped me set my business up a lot more quicker and easier, because they gave me a lot of the tools and resources that made it easy for me, versus trying to do it on my own, which I've done in the past. And obviously it's going to cost money, but to me, it's worth it. So anyways, God bless you guys. I pray that you guys will continue to stay in your path. And don't forget, you guys have a blessed time. Comment below if you guys have any questions, or feel free to message me on my website. And I'll talk to you guys soon. Take care. Bye.
Thanks for joining us this week on Estherpreneur. Make sure to visit our website, favorandwealth.com, for more information on our services. While you're at it, if you found value in this show, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or if you simply tell a friend about the show, that would help me out too. Also, check out my book, The Ugly Side of Sales, available on Amazon, where I share 7 of my secrets on how to win and grow business the right way. Until next time, keep shining.